That'll be our headline. UGC flips table at first practice, second practice.
Get everything done yesterday?
Yeah, it was great. Day one was awesome. It's always great to get back on the field. You take a day off or take a break after OTAs, after the mini camps, and you're just kind of itching to get back and reminding yourself to hold yourself back. Doesn't really get real till the pads come on. But it was awesome to watch the guys run around. They did an awesome job during the break of studying and just so much more comfortable than what we were in the spring.
How much did you kind of have to even reevaluate what you saw from minicamp and OTAs to coming out here and adjust maybe things that you've seen and said, okay, this fits a little better? How much of that happened for you?
There are already things. There's always little things that you think maybe you'll just kind of roll with what you did in the spring, knowing what the possible adjustment or the next adjustment's going to be. And then you just get to the point where like, all right, it's time. Like, let's make it happen. Let's get guys more comfortable for the season. But the biggest thing was just getting more guys back, right? Just getting more guys on the field, communicating together. We missed some key pieces in the offseason, but day one, you're really just looking to see how comfortable, the communication, the awareness is, and I thought guys killed it yesterday.
Communication in the middle is obviously at the linebackers important. How have you seen Caleb handle that? Because he's been one of the guys who's gotten more opportunities as others have been out.
He's taken advantage of a huge opportunity, right, with backers ahead of him not being on the field, and he's calm, like he's collected. He wants that role. He wants to be a lead communicator for a defense. That's what he's done in the past, and he just doesn't blink. He's very low emotion, I would say, on the field, like as far as just retaining information, talking, communicating with me, with the position coaches, with other guys. He's definitely taken advantage of the opportunity and more reps.
Yesterday, Brandon B. was talking about, even before you were hired, one of the first things you said in the interview is how you could make Ed Oliver better. You had a lot of good ideas for that. How can you make Ed Oliver a better player in your defense?
I think number one is you got to make teams find him. If you know where a guy is going to be, it's a little bit easier for an offense to game plan. And I think the front structures we're going to run is going to be more multiple than what they've done here in the past, and that frees up a guy like Ed, and we have some experience around him, some guys that know how to play off of interior D linemen, right? You look at a Bradley Chubb, you look at Greg Russo, Greg's obviously had a ton of reps with Ed. So the more experience you have around a guy like Ed, it frees him up, and it allows him to kind of be the key piece of it and guys to play off of him.
Yesterday you had Dion and Dwayne Carter at nose, especially when the pads come on. What do you want to see from those guys when you're in that front, just to evaluate where they're at, whether they can help you there?
Yeah, the whole front is when we get pads on, that's the true evaluation. Alignment, assignment, they've done a great job. There's going to be some huge battles up front, and a big piece of that is the nose, right? How many snaps do we want Dion at nose versus possibly 4-eye? Dwayne Carter, what is his role? There's a number of guys, Fedarian Mathis, there's a lot of guys that are going to be moving around. You'll see them at different places during camp, and just want to see how many snaps we think they can function in different roles for us, and I'm excited about the group. They had a great offseason. Physically they came back in great shape, and now you're just kind of itching to get the pads on to where we can truly evaluate it against a great offensive line, a great scheme, especially in the run game with what we do here at the Bills. So I'm excited about that. They test me every day.
Jim, how much of a transition is it going to be for Greg Russo to go from the 4-3 defensive end to an outside stand-up linebacker? I mean, is there more to it than we think, or is there less to it for him to be able to transition to that role?
I think the number one thing was to try to show him how much carries over, right, from what he's done his whole life, the roles he's been asked to do, how much carries over, and then get him to understand the differences and how do we bridge that gap. And he's done a good job of understanding what we're trying to do. We think it's going to allow him to get to his length a little bit better than it has in the past. There's times he's gotten jammed up just with limited space, and obviously he's a unique athlete. With his size, with his length, we're really excited to get him a little bit more space, right? We're not trying to go crazy, but get him a little bit more space to allow him to have a little bit more vision, see what's going on, and then be able to get to that length, whether it's the run or the pass game.
Jim, how much have you seen Bradley Chubb's leadership kind of rub off on some of the younger guys that are up front?
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, you go through the free agency process and you talk to guys, and they can make their spiel. You talk to different people around the league, and you get their input about it. And from day one, it's natural. Like, he doesn't have to try. It's who he is. He's a natural leader. Guys want to follow him. Great professional habits. You name it. Like, he's knocked that out of the park. So, on top of being a great player, he knows the system. He's played in a very similar system, right? That's kind of what he grew up in Denver. So, excited for the on-the-field leadership he can provide. And that was the biggest thing we had to sell him. Like, you talked about the leadership and how you can help young guys grow around you. But number one, just be you. Be a player. Like, be a great football player for us. And it's always great when guys can handle both and not blink. And he's one of those people.
Jim, for a player like Cole Bishop, who had a kind of a breakout year last year, how do you improve upon that, and how does he actually go about making that improvement happen? So let me ask you, how hard is it to improve, and how does he go about making it happen?
Yeah, I think for a guy like Cole, when you have that breakout and the system changes, right, sometimes you panic a little bit early. And that, having him a little bit limited in the offseason, I think was good. We're able to have a lot more one-on-one conversations with him and teach the scheme and show him how he fits, rather than just being thrown into the fire of trying to compete and execute every single day. And that was the number one thing I tried, trying to turn the situation that we had in the offseason into a really positive one that way. This will free him up, just like Ed. You talk about Ed up front and the different things we can do with him. The safety group, I see the same way. I was always a Swiss Army knife that kind of did a lot of different things, and that's what I like my safety group to be. There's going to be a lot of different roles and a lot of different positions and techniques they're asked to do, and that fits Cole Bishop's play style and his personality very well.
Jim, there's a natural break-in period that you coach, you swing it up to. How do you square the vision that you have on defense and knowing that it may take a little bit more time?
Yeah, my job, being a professional, is to try to make that break-in period as short as possible, right? There always is one, because you're learning new players. They're learning me, right? We're getting comfortable with each other. Over-communicating is probably the number one thing that I can do, trying to let them get in my brain, right? Like, what am I thinking? How do I see this playing out? Being very open, which sometimes I don't want to be, but that's the fastest way, right? If you get that communication and trust back and forth with your coaches and players, that's going to give them the best chance to get there faster.
In what way do you not like being open? What do you mean by
that's just not my personality. I'm more reserved. I like to sit back and just take it all in, read people, read the room, that type of stuff. But in a new situation like this, like, I have to talk. Like, I have to get into these different rooms and groups and just kind of see where their head is at, what they're thinking, what's easy, what's hard. Like, I have to ask more questions and not just sit back and assume anything.
Where are you in that process?
Does Max Hairston's skill set fit, and what do you need to see out of Max?
Yeah, Max is a man corner. Like, he can run, he can challenge. Anytime you have that speed and quickness at an elite level, it allows you to play a lot of man coverage. But the number one thing that I noticed coming out of college, he can take the ball away, right? He can take the ball away. So with a guy like Max, it's the ability to mix and match playing man coverage, challenging receivers, but having vision on the quarterback to take the ball away, because that's one of his biggest things. And obviously it's the number one stat in defense, right? Taking the ball away.
To play off that question, how concerned are you behind Benford with the youth you have, especially Bouncer's point? You've got a rookie, a second-year guy who didn't play a whole lot. Is that at all a concern as you get going here?
Yeah, there's a number of depth concerns, right? I think you're always looking to make that roster better, right? Whether it's at corner, just not a ton of experience past the first group, right? That's going to be a heated battle among many during camp. So definitely one we have our eyes on. We like who we have. We like the talent. We like where they're at currently. There's a lot to be determined on that field, and they're going to get the opportunity to go compete and win roles. Also why I love the safety group and the versatility. They've done a great job here in the past with kind of that tweener safety nickel body type, and we're going to continue to build off that and find roles for those guys.
Jim, you
Jim,
talked about.
how do you guys learn them with the short amount of time in training camp, and they don't hit as much as the old days or the two-a days, where you can find these guys, teach these guys how to textbook tackle, like that tackle the guy for Denver made against Cook in the playoff. I hadn't seen the textbook. I mean, that was just a perfect hit and it actually caused a fumble in the playoff game. How do you get a chance to teach these guys the proper way of tackling?
Yeah, to me that's one of the biggest separators in the NFL, right? Is who can tackle and who can't tackle, right? And there's a natural element, right? If guys don't bite coming out of college, it's hard to turn them into great tacklers. But as a coaching staff, like, you have to emphasize it. You have to find ways to be creative, to create the finish part of a tackle, because that's not happening, right? There's so much where you have to protect your guys and protect the team with the length of the season. But I think that is ultimately one of the biggest separators in the NFL is, can you turn the tape on and you see a team that tackles really well or a team that's inconsistent? So it's a huge focus of ours.
Do you feel they need to be more physical in practices or tackling going live in camp?
You're talking to a guy who broke his leg in practice being physical. So, there's a give and a take, right? You have to get guys to understand there's only one way to play the game, right? Like, you have to play it with a certain intensity. Does not mean you have to take guys to the ground, right? I mean, you can teach a lot of things in the settings that we do. You just have to be careful you're not teaching bad habits indirectly, right, as far as pad level and finish and that type of stuff. So I think how we emphasize things in the meetings and some of the drill work we do early in practice has to be correct in order to continue to build.
Jim, you talked about your coaching style, just like listening, asking questions, learning about the group that you have. What's the biggest thing that you've learned since you stepped foot in this building?
To me, I was just blown away. Professional habits in the meeting room, right? There's obviously been a good foundation with this group of guys, and you start putting on film and you're talking over calls and they're communicating within the group. They're making close calls, right? They're making coverage calls. They're making adjustments and alerts. And this was the first day, like, we're installing a new call that they didn't know, right? So just to see kind of what the habits within a meeting room setting and then how you can take that to the field, like, very interactive, and very few places I've been had that. Like, when you walk in the door, right, you're always trying to create it and build it, but from day one to have that, you can coach to a certain level because, like, you're going to get response, right? You're not looking at chairs where they're just going, just tell me what I need to know and I'll figure it out later. So to me, that kind of ends up changing your teaching style, right? Because you're going to have those interactions. You're going to be able to fire questions and make the meetings more fun, right? It's more engaging for the players, and I think that helps them learn.
Is there a guy in particular that you walked in that meeting like, he just gets it?
No, it was a group. I almost jumped back because so many guys start talking that fast, and it's like, oh shit, like, do I stop this? Like, I still got some things I want to say. Like, I don't know if you understand this the way that I want, but again, it just makes you go back and reevaluate kind of how you're going to interact with the players in that setting. And anytime you have that, like, you're so far ahead. Like, you're so far ahead because it's not like they're waiting to get on the field to have that interaction and communication, right? Our DBs are on the front and the backers are behind them. So you're seeing DBs turn around and actually make eye contact, and, like, that's going to carry over. There's no way that doesn't carry over to the field.
Leonhard Johnson is a different personality than a lot of the guys that we see out here. Your personality, talking about listening and how you go about it, what have you seen from him, and how does that mesh with you?
He's the opposite. He's speaking first. I think every team needs a little bit of an edge, right? The biggest thing about CJ is his heart, man. He's got a huge heart. He means well, and he loves football. He loves to compete, right? Some of the other stuff, yeah, he's going to walk the line. He's going to cross the line, and you're going to have those conversations with him. It's important when you have a big, strong personality like that the group understands who he is and where he's coming from, right? Deep down, what does he believe? What's he all about? So as we get through camp, like, that's a big piece with the players, with me, of getting guys to understand, why you play the game, right? Why are you the way you are? Like, how did we get here? So we'll go through some things where just building that trust and communication. But anytime you have those strong personalities and guys that want to speak out, they want to be in front of the group, like, you just have to get the people around them to understand who they are, where they're coming from, and then you get buy-in. You don't always get people who agree with it, right? But you at least get an understanding of where people come from and the passion that they have, right? What drives them to, what motivates them. And he's a winner, right? He's a competitor, he's a winner, he's been productive on the field, and that's going to help our defense as well.
Hey, Jim, is it a bit surreal for you to be back here specifically at Fisher in a much different role?
Yeah, obviously, in some ways, it feels a little full circle. You know, remember being in these dorms when they weren't quite as nice, and obviously there's been a ton of upgrades. It was always a great place to go to camp because as a team, you do become closer, right? You're isolated, and it's a great setup. Not every team has this type of setting to have practice. The weather, obviously, here is a little bit better than some places where you're dealing with some of the heat issues, but training camps were always a little bit special, nerve-wracking, right? Because you're high stress and you're trying to make a team, especially being undrafted. But it is a little bit of a strange feeling walking around here, kind of feeling like you know it, but at the same time, it's a totally different feel just with the role I'm in.
Jim, you talked about Caleb specifically, but just how do you view that competition at inside linebacker with Dorian coming back and just the group as a whole?
Yeah, really excited to see how the beginning of camp starts to play out when guys are getting on the field and just the different combinations, right? Like how we can play guys off of each other and how many snaps. You know, there's a number of guys that are going to have roles on special teams, right? So the depth of that position, I think, is extremely important as we go forward, and some unique and different skill sets, right, within the top part of that group. So can't wait till the pads come on. You know, for linebackers, it's hard to get a true evaluation until the pads come on and you start getting into different situations. But early reviews are great, man. I love the way that they're playing and functioning within the defense.
Beyond the details of individual roles at a high level, what's the most important concepts players have to grasp and understand who played in the old defense that are going to be successful in yours?
I think, to me, there's probably going to be a little bit more volume than they've had, and to me, getting them to understand the reasoning behind it. Right, it's not volume just to have a lot, to carry a lot of things and to put a lot of things on tape, right? It's still, in my mind, like we're doing things for a reason, right? We're not going to be reckless. The game planning behind it, there's going to be reasons, and that's where training camp to me gets hard because you're installing to just put things on tape, right? So as a coach, you have to over communicate. All right, this is a situation. Right? Maybe this is the skill set of the tight end, and that's the only reason we'd run this pressure. Like, there's certain things you have to communicate on within game planning, how you actually want to call this versus an off season or a training camp when you're just trying to get things installed and get things repped. You know, there's plenty of things that we would not want to do against our offense, you know, with that style of offense. And I think there's that fine balance of getting guys to understand, like, I want to dictate what offenses do, and the more we can carry into a game, we have options. We have adjustments that we can get to, but at the same time, I told them my very first thing is play speed and confidence. Like, if play speed or confidence start to go down, we're doing too much, we're not coaching it correctly, we have to make adjustments as a staff to put them in better positions to win.
Jim, talking to different players about switching from a 4-3 to 3-4, it seems like a lot of players are really excited about the possibilities and opportunities. What do you see from the buy-in from the players overall so far about switching?
I think overall it's you look at the front, right? You look at the D-line, the outside backers, the linebackers. From a DB perspective, you know, they might act like they're excited, but there's not a lot that changes in their world, right? But I think from a front standpoint, they understand the differences. You know, they understand from a blocking scheme standpoint, like what you force offenses to do, the one-on-ones that you can create, the angles that you can create in the run game. I think we have a smart group that understands the differences of that and how it can help them, right? How it can help free them up, isolate offensive linemen, which is what you want to do in the NFL, man. You want to take some of the double teams off and make it a little bit harder for those guys up front. So we have a smart group that understands what that's all about, and they're excited to have the opportunity to go make plays.
Jim, I hate to go off topic just a bit. The AP's doing a thing on the 25th anniversary of Corey Stringer's death. You were a freshman in Wisconsin, I believe, in 2000. Did in any way do you remember that, or did it influence you in any way, if you recall?
Well, obviously shocking, right? It was the first time that I really had seen something like that happen, and obviously we grew up in an era where you got after it, right? Workouts like designed to be very hard, and in a number of cases, like they want people to fail, right? Not necessarily your whole team, but like, and I think it just made everyone kind of step back and reevaluate. Is that the right way? You have the heat issues, like what's the right way to be smart about this? You want to push your players, you want to push your team. Going through hard things as a team brings you together, right? Like there's a lot of good behind running a training camp a certain way or a conditioning session a certain way, and I think it just made everyone from coaches, players, medical staff kind of step back and reevaluate, is this the right way to do things? But I mean, being young as a player, it was just kind of one of those, like, we're not invincible things, right? That was kind of the biggest piece you took from it, was like, oh man, we better take care of ourselves and take care of each other when you see things start to happen, as far as guys getting in trouble with whether it was heat or just a hard workload for the day.
In terms of TJ Parker, the kind of innate pressure that comes with being a team's first pick, what are the conversations been like with him, and what are you looking to see out of him here at camp?
Yeah, number one, we communicated with him. We have some great experienced vets around you. Learn how to be a professional, learn the position. He did a great job. You know, he went down to Florida with Chubb. Like from day one, he's really turned into a, just puppy dog to some of those older guys. Like, just follow him around, learn from him. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's still, it's funny. You get guys that they're drafted in a certain spot. Like, he still feels like he's slighted, right? Like, man, I'm better than where I came out. We're glad we got him. We're really glad we got him. He did an amazing job kind of transitioning his body over the last 6 weeks, putting himself in a great position here to put his best foot forward in camp. But he took everything we taught him in the spring and just soaked it all up. It's kind of drinking from a fire hose as a rookie, because you have no break, right? You start your college season and you just go. So this last six weeks, you can tell just from the way he's carrying himself right now that he handled it the right way.
Thank you.
Thank you.